Kackaamin Family Development Center is a culturally sensitive and trauma-informed addictions and trauma recovery healing center for Indigenous and non-Indigenous Canadians. Our programs and services contribute to further strengthening families wanting to heal from addictions and unresolved trauma in a therapeutic residential treatment setting. Our program is 6 weeks in length and is located in the beautiful Alberni Valley, homelands of the Nuu-chah-nulth peoples. During your time at Kackaamin Family Development Center, you can expect to participate in group therapy, individual counseling, in-house NA and AA meetings, community dinners, outings, hikes, walks, taking in the West Coast nature. Kackaamin brings the best of both worlds, Indigenous culture and Western healing practices. Our staff include elders, a clinical supervisor, a clinical therapist, and a large team of support staff.
Me being a residential school survivor, my mom being a residential school survivor, and having that understanding of what we're dealing with when the families come in, like I've lived that. My whole personal background is based in that pain, and learning how to come out of that has been really challenging. And so I went off and got some training with Jane Middleton Moz through the Indigenous Trauma and Resiliency. It's a master's program out of the University of Toronto, and I finished that, and my purpose was not so much to get those letters. I mean, it's important, but my purpose was to look for ways we could help people to heal. You know, that was my main driving force. And so everything I learned there, I brought back to the center, and we're implementing that. So I kind of see our center and our programming like we set up the social, emotional safety for families that come here through a cultural lens.
And at Kackaamin, we're a trauma-informed center, and so a lot of what we really take time to do is establish a safety net for the children, a safety net for the adults and youth and the community at Kackaamin. And so the first week, you know, that's our focus, is to make sure that everybody feels safe, because we know that when people don't feel safe, then, you know, that could disrupt their ability to move forward with healing. And so setting safety is our number one priority. And at Kackaamin, you know, we value the Nuu-chah-nulth principle. The ultimate law of Nuu-chah-nulth is the protection of our offspring, and that, you know, is something that we really value at Kackaamin, and we make sure that children are safe and placed back into the center of our families and communities.
Some of the children that come here come with what they're carrying inside of them. As our children come from many different nations here, we provide different cultural aspects of the program, including medicine wheel, sweat ceremonies. We also do traditional baths for anyone that would like to do those traditional teachings. I really believe that it's important for us as First Nations people to hold on to our culture and who we are as First Nations people.
Projects such as ours are only made possible by the hard work of funders, organizations, highly trained staff, and dedicated clients.
It came down to a crunch when my 14-year-old son got mad at me and told me that he needed me and he didn't want my addiction to cause my death because I was needed. And so we all got clean and for a month before we got here. So the trying part of that was done at home.
Before I came here, I never really had much information on what was going on in, my parents' lives and my grandparents' lives.
My first goal when I decided to do treatment was to strengthen our family unit. There was really no unity anymore in that, and I told my kids, it's not your fault. None of this is your fault. And then when we got here, our first circle, I sat them down, and that's after I had done a session and heard a couple other people's story about residential school and what they experienced, and that made me think that's what their biological father experienced. And my biological mother also went to residential school. And then I sat them down and I told them that I lost my mom when I was 7, and I understood why they didn't want to lose me. And we had a really strong circle with her sister because she wouldn't talk, she just didn't communicate. And then we did another session on touching on trauma, and that's when I just let loose. I cried it all out. I remembered how to tap and how to breathe and that really helped because it's something you can do anywhere. Like when I get that lump in my throat, I know I have to cry, I have to let it out, because otherwise it's just going to build, and stuffing it down isn't healthy anymore. And it seemed like the more sessions we did, the closer everybody in the group grew, and it was easier to share.
I think creating safety and helping individuals connect with their feeling. I think that's the ultimate goal.
Yeah, and often they may not have the story of their trauma. It might have happened at a time when they were pre-verbal, or it just might have, the whole experience might have been one that the memory's not in their cognitive awareness, but it's in their body. So when we use the somatic practices, they're able to access the traumatic energy that's in their body. So in that way, we're able to help them process what they need to without using the words that they may not be able to access. They may not be able to have the story, but they've got the trauma in their body, and we can help them release that.
And when we got to the sexual assault part, sexual abuse, we actually broke in and did a women's group, a women's circle. So it was just a small group of women. It was nice to hear that that's how they used to expel a lot of their hurt and pain, was actually in a women's circle, and it felt so safe. I was able to share my story of sexual abuse, and it started when I was 3. And I didn't realize that I had never introduced my children to the relative that abused me. They didn't even know that relative existed in our family. And I had done that subconsciously, so I didn't even realize they were missing that person out of their memory banks. It just wasn't there because I never told them. And to get that out felt amazing. I felt like so light, and it really felt like I took a lot of my power back from the person that hurt me, the whole experience that I had buried for so long. And it just seemed to tick along with Shelley starting to talk to me, my daughter. She talked to me, and we had a really good one-on-one in the room, and I talked to her, and she explained to me, she said, I didn't even know. I had no clue, And you just plug along in life and you think your children are doing just fine. But if you don't share those hard experiences with them, they don't have anything to protect themselves. Like now, my kids have knowledge about residential school. They have knowledge about loss and grief. They have knowledge about sexual abuse.
The meetings and stuff that the adults were doing, they talked about how to deal with triggers and intergenerational trauma, and my dad he had gone to residential school as well as his brothers, and so did my grandmother. And I can definitely feel the effects with what's gone on in residential school. So it's really nice to know a way that I can go about righting some of those wrongs, you know.
And once we got rid of that pain, I found that my addictive hold I had started to loosen. I started to lose that pain that was inside me that I probably carried for a lot of years, a lot of years. 46 years I carried that pain around with me. And these wonderful people helped me get rid of it.
My name is Julie Fontaine. I'm from the Tashot First Nation, and I've been involved with Kackaamin as a member of the board for a number of years. I've also been on my own journey of healing and recovery from trauma and addictions for the past 30 years. I believe in the program and what it has to offer, and comfort in a team that works together for the good of all the people and the children.
So when I start to feel triggered, I can stop and step back and say, hold on, why is this bugging me so much? You know, just take that break and that time to figure out what it is in my past that is causing pain. Pain is the root cause of everything, and you get triggered by it. Things remind you of it, and it's pain. Nobody wants to keep feeling pain over and over again. And until they realize what the trigger is and why the pain is there, and once they expel it, it's easier to cope. If everybody could understand that the pain they suffered and the trauma they suffered, unwillingly put on them, it wasn't by their choice. If they could realize that and just, have the courage to walk that path through their pain and get it out and put the responsibility back on the people responsible, how much healing could be done, how less we would see addictions in our home communities.
The team here that supports like all elements of healing for the clients that come here, for the families, they get a chance to not only change behaviors, like it's not only healing from addiction, but also just healing from trauma and the deeper wounds that have led to those behaviors that they're trying to change, that they want to change. And it's such an honor and a gift to be able to be a part of the family here that is helping to make those changes and bringing that out to the communities.
I got to learn quite a bit about that and how to go about fixing things that have gone wrong. And it was really nice getting to know everybody. It was like a whole new little community I got to join, because we always had our neighbors and everybody's kids at the house, and it was nice. And as well as like the community dinners and stuff like that.
My name is J.C. Lucas. I'm from the Heshkut Band, Sea Serpent Clan, out on the west coast. And I sobered up in 1980 through Sweat Lodge at the Round Lake Treatment Center in Okanagan. And ever since then I've been doing Sweat Lodge at the old site in Kackaamin and here and different parts of the island. I still do sweat lodges. And I find that it's one of the strongest medicines against drug addiction and alcoholism, because we use all the powers and elements.
My father was an elder. My father was the keeper of ceremonies in my community in the 50s. His name was Solomon Brass, and my mother's name was Rebecca Osup Brass. And they made a really good team. They worked together. My father was very traditional. He was kind. I never saw him be abusive with my mom, and so he was a really good influence for me. He treated us with respect and dignity. When I was 10, I've been in residential school 3 years. My father asked me to take part in the rain dance, and so I did, and so I completed 4 fasting and dancing in the rain dance, 4 ceremonies. I found that it gave me a lot of strength, and it helped me with my day-to-day challenges in residential school. And I'm really happy that we're bringing back culture.
The aftercare plan they do and the safety plan they do, it brings everything right out on the table with my kids, what they worry about, how we're going to stop that worry, how we're going to deal with it, what the plan's going to be when we get home. And it's nice that they can hear me and listen to me and know that when we get home we're still going to be just as safe as we are at Kackaamin. Hey, hey, hey.